I clearly state the process here. I am responsible. No exceptions, no shortcuts.
The cabin froze. Porcelain cups rattled against saucers as the flight attendant lunged forward, palm slicing through the air. Her hand met Maya's cheek, not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to brand humiliation into silence. Get out of here. Every voice vanished. The hum of the jet softened into nothing. Even the air conditioning seemed to hesitate. Dr. Maya Ellis didn't move. She sat in two, a posture still, breath even, eyes locked on the woman now trembling from her own outburst. The slap had landed, but the power hadn't shifted. The security officer at the aisle, Ethan Ward, tensed, hand hovering over his radio. Behind him, a male passenger lifted his phone, recording quietly, his reflection caught in the polished cabin wall. The light flickered over silver trays, champagne glasses, and one truth hanging in the air. Bias travels first class too. The attendant, Sabrina Cole, leaned closer, voice sharp enough to cut. You heard me. This section isn't for people like you. Maya blinked once. Then her reply, soft, deliberate. I own this jet. The man with the phone whispered, wait, what did she just say? No one answered. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Maya. The moment stretched like glass thin, breakable. Sabrina's breath came short. Enough lies. Move before I call security. Maya didn't blink. You already did. Ethan stepped closer. Ma'am, stand up now. His voice cracked, not from anger, but from uncertainty. The passengers watched, unblinking, sensing something larger than a boarding dispute. Maya's hand rested on her black leather bag. Calm, grounded. Her voice never rose. Touch me again, and you'll regret it professionally. Sabrina scoffed, masking fear with authority. You're not supposed to be here. Maya's reply was, ice over flame. I built here. The cameras caught every second. The slap, the silence, the shift. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply refuses to stand. Ethan's radio crackled. A voice from the cockpit. Captain to first. Cabin now. The passengers murmured, some in disbelief, others in quiet awe. Sabrina straightened her uniform, trying to regain control. You'll regret this, she hissed. Maya's eyes rose to meet hers, steady as the hum of the engines. No, she said. You will. The jet felt smaller now. Not because of its size, but because every inch of it now belonged to her truth. Fade to black. The real story begins. The engines murmured low, a steady heartbeat under the silence that followed. Sabrina stood frozen near the aisle, the sting of what she'd done flashing in her eyes. Passengers whispered, heads turning between the two women as if watching a verdict unfold. Dr. Maya Ellis didn't speak. She didn't need to. The slap had already spoken louder than any word could. She adjusted her sleeve with a calm so measured it unsettled everyone watching. Her composure felt heavier than anger. It was control sharpened to a blade. Across the cabin, Ethan Ward, the security officer, shifted his stance. Ma'am, we can do this easy or hard, he said, his voice lower now, unsure which side of history he stood on. Maya looked up at him. Is that what you tell everyone who looks inconvenient? The question didn't shout, it landed. The passengers heard it, and something in their silence cracked. Seat 2B, a middle-aged woman named Emma Lee, turned slightly. She showed her ticket. She said under her breath, as if confessing to the truth. The man behind her nodded, his phone camera still glowing red. Sabrina straightened her jacket, clinging to protocol like armor. This section is reserved for verified clients only, she announced, louder now, trying to reassert power. But her voice wavered. Maya reached into her bag, slow, deliberate, and pulled out a slim leather folio. She didn't open it yet. She simply set it on the tray table, right between them. Verification, she said quietly. Sabrina hesitated, scanning the other passengers, searching for backup. None came. Even Ethan looked away. The captain's voice broke through the intercom. Flight crew, report to the cockpit immediately. The order sliced through the tension like static. Sabrina exhaled, frustrated, then whispered toward Ethan, she's faking it. People like her. She stopped, realizing too late what she'd said. Maya's eyes narrowed just slightly. Finish that sentence, she said. Ethan's jaw clenched. He didn't step forward. He didn't have to. The shame was already walking up the aisle. Maya leaned back in her seat, her reflection visible in the window beside her. Outside, the runway lights blurred into streaks of gold and blue, motionless but alive. She whispered, mostly to herself, 20 years, and the script never changes. At 19, she'd been escorted out of a business lounge in Houston. Dress code, they'd said, as men in sneakers walked past unbothered. That memory sat beside her now, invisible but undeniable. Sabrina cleared her throat, trying to recover control. You can take your attitude and leave this aircraft before we... Maya interrupted, voice flat. Before you what? Call your supervisor? A small smile, quick and cutting. You already have. Her phone vibrated once, no ringtone, no gesture, just a subtle confirmation. A message from Rachel Holt, her executive assistant. Aquila protocol engaged, confirming ownership data. 2 minutes. The clock had started. Maya folded her hands, eyes never leaving Sabrina. You just made this personal, Sabrina muttered. No, Maya answered. You did. The hum of the engines deepened, the kind of sound that warns of turbulence before it arrives. Every face in the cabin turned toward the woman who hadn't raised her voice once, and still, somehow, she was the loudest person in the room. The captain still hadn't come. The intercom crackled once. Then silence returned, thicker than before. The air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and tension. Sabrina stood at the front of the aisle, shoulders rigid, pride trembling under the weight of eyes, watching her every move. Maya Ellis hadn't moved since the slap. Her posture remained precise in accusation, all by itself. Her tablet lay unopened on the tray. Her gaze didn't waver. When power is real, it doesn't need to perform. It simply waits. Ethan Ward shifted again, his radio whispering fragments of chatter. Captain's on his way, came a faint voice through static. He exhaled in relief, as if that would erase what was already done. Sabrina turned toward him. Escort her off before he gets here. We'll handle the paperwork later. Ethan hesitated. She hasn't resisted. Maybe wait for Claying. Do it! Sabrina snapped. Now. Ardney Verso? That one word now cut the cabin in half. Half the passengers leaned back, avoiding trouble. The other half raised their phones. Every red light on those screens became its own silent protest. Ethan stepped forward, slow but deliberate. Ma'am, he said quietly, I'm asking you to gather your belongings. Maya met his eyes. And I'm asking you to remember who you work for. For a second his breath caught. Ma'am, please. Maya lifted her phone. Rachel, she said evenly marked the timestamp. A crisp voice replied through her earpiece. Logged at 6:41 p.m. Ownership verification complete. Proceeding with broadcast authorization. Sabrina froze. Broadcast what? Maya didn't answer. She didn't have to. The young trainee, Mia Park, hovered near the galley door, pale but awake now. She whispered to the man beside her. Her ticket scanned green. I saw it. Chrysling, he whispered back. Then why? Because people like her, Mia murmured, always get questioned first. Sabrina spun around. What did you say? Mia stepped forward, trembling but firm, her seat's real. The words hung there, fragile but blazing. It was the first crack in the wall. Emma Lee, from 2B, spoke up next. She's done nothing wrong. You hit her. The murmur spread like fire through dry grass. Ethan's radio hissed again, control tower chatter overlapping with guilt. Sabrina barked, phones down, no filming allowed. But the red lights stayed. One man said calmly, You don't get to tell us what we saw. Maya sat still, absorbing every syllable. Then quietly, almost tender, she said, This is what silence used to look like. Her tone made the cabin listen. This is how we let injustice survive. Polite, procedural, professional. Sabrina laughed, high and brittle. You think this is about race? Maya's gaze sharpened. I think this is about respect and how you decide who gets it. Rachel's voice came again, steady as the hum of engines. Dr. Ellis, Aquila protocol fully active, crew audit initiated. Maya smiled slightly. Perfect timing. She turned to Ethan. Step back. He did, instinctively. Not because she ordered him to, but because something in her presence made defiance feel smaller than truth. Outside, the sky was turning amber over the tarmac. Inside, every second stretched. Justice was already taxiing toward the gate. Maya unfolded her tablet at last, its screen glowing with her company's crest. The title read, Ellis Aviation Holdings Private Fleet Registry. Below it, the jet's tail number, her signature, her authority. She lifted her eyes to Sabrina. You said I don't belong, she murmured. Then tell me, where do you belong when the owner walks in? The cabin fell silent, and somewhere deep in that quiet, the power shifted for good. The tablet's glow washed the cabin in a cold electric light. Every reflection on the polished metal trim, every stunned face seemed to orbit around that single screen. Sabrina's lips parted, but no sound came out. For a moment, the hum of the jet was the only thing alive. Dr. Maya Ellis spoke softly, the way judges speak when the verdict's already written. This aircraft, she said, sliding the tablet forward, belongs to Ellis Aviation Holdings. That's me. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Authority sat in her tone like steel under silk. Sabrina glanced around, searching for backup that no longer existed. Ethan Ward took one small step backward, the way a man retreats from a fire that's no longer safe to approach. In row 3, phones kept filming quiet, red dots blinking like witnesses. Mia Park, the trainee, whispered, "It's true." Sabrina turned sharply. "You stay out of this!" But the young woman didn't. She took one step forward, trembling but steady. She owns it. I saw her name on the manifest before takeoff. A collective intake of breath swept the cabin. Someone in the back muttered, "No way." Another passenger whispered, "Oh, it's real." Maya's gaze swept across the aisle slow, deliberate. "This wasn't about a seat," she said. "It was about how fast you were ready to believe I didn't belong." Sabrina's eyes flashed. "You're twisting this?" Maya leaned forward, slightly calm as stone. "No, I'm documenting it." Her phone buzzed once more. Rachel Holt's voice filled her ear like quiet thunder. "Crew compliance report uploaded. Audit flagged for bias. The board is watching live." Maya nodded, barely let it stream. "Done." Ethan's radio crackled again, a voice he didn't recognize this time. "Security standby. Corporate oversight en route." He looked up, his authority dissolving between duty and dread. From 2B, Emily lifted her chin. "You said people like her. We all heard it." Her voice didn't tremble. It anchored the entire cabin. The man beside her added, "That slap was on video. This isn't going away." Sabrina's breath quickened. Her face, so confident minutes ago, was now pale under the cabin lights. "You think you can just walk in here, make accusations, destroy my career?" Maya's reply was sharp but quiet. "I didn't destroy it. You did. I'm just turning the lights on." The engines shifted pitch, a low mechanical sigh as the aircraft taxied back toward the gate. The captain's voice returned over the speaker, clipped and confused. Miss Cole, report to the cockpit immediately." She didn't move. Rachel's voice came again, authorization confirmed. "You may initiate termination protocol." Maya stood, every phone tilted upward to follow. Her blazer fell neatly against her shoulders as she said the words that would end it. "Effective immediately, Sabrina Cole and Brian Shaw are relieved of duty pending investigation. Remove their access to Ellis systems." Sabrina blinked, stunned. "You can't do that." Maya's gaze didn't waver. "I just did." Ethan lowered his radio slowly. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he murmured. Maya looked at him, not unkindly. Apologies a start, accountabilities the rest. The hum of the engine softened further as the jet rolled to a stop. Passengers began clapping, not loud at first, but building, wave after wave. Mia covered her mouth, tears catching the cabin light. Sabrina stood there, breathless, her authority dissolving like smoke. Maya turned away, calm as sunrise. Her final words floated over her shoulder. "Next time you look at someone like me, remember, power doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it just boards quietly." The jet door hissed open. Cold night air slipped through the cabin like truth entering a lie. Lights from the tarmac spilled inside, catching the silver edges of the seats, the pale reflection of faces that still hadn't processed what they'd witnessed. Maya Ellis stood motionless at the center aisle. Her phone is still in hand. Her voice is calm enough to frighten. "Captain," she said, not turning her head, "please open a line to ground control. We're not taking off again until this aircraft is crewed properly." "Yes, we're still those. The reader?" The captain's reply cracked through the intercom, tentative, uncertain. "Understood? Dr. Ellis." The title landed like a gavel. Dr. Ellis. The room once filled with suspicion now bent beneath it. Sabrina Cole sank into the jump seat near the galley, hands shaking. She whispered to Brian, "She's bluffing." Brian didn't answer. His badge had already gone red, deactivated by the system Rachel triggered. The light blinked twice, then died. At the far end, Ethan Ward stepped aside, giving Maya the full aisle. Passengers whispered her name like a rumor, turning into record. Maya took one slow step forward, the rhythm of her heels deliberate. Tap, pause, tap. Every sound claimed the space back. She looked to Mia Park, the trainee still standing, frozen near the emergency exit. You did the right thing, Maya said quietly. That's how real change begins, one voice refusing to stay quiet. And Bran. Mia swallowed, nodded once, eyes glassy but fierce. I just told the truth. That's enough, Maya replied. Most people never do. Sabrina finally rose, breath uneven, mascara trembling near her eyes. You don't understand how this works, she muttered, voice cracking. We were following procedure. Maya turned. No, she said, measured and lethal. You were following prejudice and calling it procedure. A low murmur of agreement rippled through the cabin. The passengers, once silent, complicit, were now witnesses. Phones tilted higher, but not for spectacle. For record, Rachel's voice came again, calm in Maya's ear. Corporate oversight just confirmed. Live connection established. You are clear to proceed. Patch it, Maya said. Within seconds, the overhead speaker shifted tone. A woman's voice, clear, firm, professional, filled the cabin. This is Carla Bennett, Chief Operations Officer, Ellis Aviation. Effective immediately, the following employees are relieved of duty. Their access has been revoked, and incident review will begin upon landing. Sabrina's breath hitched. Brian's head fell forward. Ethan stood perfectly still, waiting for permission to breathe. Carla continued, her tone steady. This event is being documented under Code 47, Discrimination in Service. Dr. Ellis, please confirm receipt. Maya looked straight at Sabrina as she spoke. Confirmed. Proceed with personnel offload. The sound of paperwork being torn echoed, Brian pulling his own badge free. He placed it on the fold-down table, the gesture awkwardly reverent. Sabrina hesitated, clutching hers as if it were oxygen. Maya extended her hand. You'll surrender it now. The attendant looked around, desperate for an ally. None appeared. Finally, trembling, she placed the badge into Maya's palm. Maya closed her fist. The click of metal meeting leather carried farther than a scream. Gate control, she said to her phone. Request personnel, escort for terminated crew. The reply was instant. Affirmative. Security en route. Outside, through the oval window, two figures in orange vests began walking toward the plane. Inside, silence returned, but it was no longer heavy. It was clean, cleansed. Maya looked down the aisle one last time. Passengers were still filming, still stunned. She gave them a small nod, not for applause, but for awareness. Justice, she said quietly, doesn't need to shout. It just needs to show up. The door opened wider. Night air rushed in, and with it came the sound of footsteps security arriving to finish what dignity had already started. The jet bridge lights flickered pale white, reflecting off the fuselage like camera flashes from a crime scene. Two airport security officers stepped aboard, the hum of their radios breaking the uneasy quiet. No one moved. Not the passengers, not the crew. Only the engines kept whispering, low and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of a truth that refused to die. Maya Ellis stood by the cabin door, posture straight, expression unreadable. In her right hand, she still held the crew badges, two small rectangles of plastic that suddenly seemed heavier than gold. Sabrina Cole avoided her gaze. Brian Shaw kept his eyes down, muttering something that sounded like a prayer or an excuse. Miss Cole, said the first security officer, tone neutral. You'll need to step off the aircraft. Sabrina didn't respond. Her mouth opened, closed again. I didn't mean one. Maya cut in quietly. You meant every word. That's why it matters. The officer gestured toward the exit. Sabrina stood, her movements stiff, her authority unraveling stitch by stitch. As she walked past Maya, she whispered, You'll ruin my life. Maya's eyes didn't follow her. No. You did that when you confused power for permission. Brian followed next, slower, head bowed. He stopped just long enough to say, I was just doing my job. Maya replied, That's what everyone says until the job ends. They stepped onto the jet bridge. The cabin stayed still, breathing in what had just left. For the first time since the slap, peace didn't feel fragile, it felt earned. Ethan Ward lingered near the aisle, hands clasped in front of him. Dr. Ellis, he said, voice low, I'm sorry. I should have stopped it sooner. Maya nodded. You will, next time. He nodded back, eyes sharp now, not with guilt, but understanding. The captain appeared from the cockpit, a tall man with weary eyes. Dr. Ellis, he began carefully, the airline has authorized a replacement crew. We're cleared to continue if you still wish to travel tonight. Why? Maya glanced around the cabin passengers, still filming, still whispering. No, she said softly, not yet. She walked back down the aisle, every heel click deliberate, each step reclaiming a space once stolen from her. She stopped beside Mia Park, the trainee, who hadn't sat since it all began. You held your ground, Maya said. That's rare. Mia swallowed hard. It felt wrong to stay quiet. That's how it starts, Maya said. Not with shouting, with someone refusing to look away. Side note, Rachel Holt's voice crackled through the phone again. Incident report complete. Corporate communications request a statement. Do you want to address the passengers? Maya looked toward the rows of faces, some in awe, some ashamed, all waiting. Yes, she said. Put me on cabin audio. A soft chime rang overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, her voice echoed through the cabin, calm and resonant. Tonight you saw something that happens more often than it should. A judgment made before a word was spoken. I don't need your sympathy. I just need you to remember what silence allows. The cabin held its breath. I built this company, she continued, to prove that excellence has no color, that dignity doesn't wear a uniform. But tonight, even I was reminded power must still defend itself. Every day. When she finished, no one clapped. Not because it wasn't powerful, because it was sacred. Emma Lee finally whispered, "Thank you." Walls. Her voice cracked, and the spell broke. Maya turned toward the door, watching the night beyond the tarmac. Security was gone now, the jet quiet again. She closed her eyes, exhaled. 10 minutes, she murmured to herself. That's all it took. Outside, the runway lights shimmered like a promise. Inside, justice had already boarded. The night pressed against the oval windows, a sheet of black glass speckled with runway lights. The rain had started, thin lines streaking down the glass like the world was quietly washing itself clean. Inside the cabin, the air had changed. No longer tense, but aware. Like everyone was sitting inside the echo of what just happened. Maya Ellis stood near seat 2A again, the same spot where it began. Her cheek was still faintly red from the slap, yet her composure made it invisible. The bruise didn't matter, the lesson did. The intercom pinged softly. Doctor? Ellis? Came the captain's voice. Ground control has cleared us to taxi when ready. Replacement crew arriving in 3 minutes. Thank you, Captain, Maya replied, her tone smooth as glass. Let's give them a jet worth flying. She turned to the passengers. Some still had phones in their hands, though none were recording anymore. Now, they simply held them like mirrors seeing themselves differently. A man near the back spoke first. Mayam, I've flown for 30 years. Never seen anything handled like that. Maya's eyes softened. Then maybe it's time we all start seeing it. From the galley, Mia Park stepped forward, holding a towel and a cup of water. Here, she said timidly. I thought you might need this. Maya accepted it with a small nod. Thank you, Mia. And keep that voice. The world needs it. Mia smiled. Just barely, but it was enough to break the cabin's stillness. Ethan Ward, now off duty, but still standing by, cleared his throat. Dr. Ellis, if it's okay to ask, why didn't you just leave? When did it started? Maya studied him, her expression neither cold nor kind, just truthful. Because every time we leave, the lie stays, she said. And tonight, I wanted the lie to leave instead. Her words hit harder than the slap ever could. Even the engines seemed to hum in agreement. Rachel Holt's voice came through Maya's earpiece again. The media already picked up the footage. Multiple passengers uploaded partial clips. Do you want us to issue a statement or hold? Maya glanced toward the passengers, toward Emma, Mia, Ethan, and the quiet faces that had watched history happen in a pressurized tube above the ground. Hold, she said. Let the truth speak for itself. It doesn't need editing. Outside, a maintenance cart rolled by, headlights flashing briefly through the cabin. Maya's reflection appeared and disappeared. In the window, a woman, calm but unbreakable, framed by her own creation. Emma Lee stood and approached her. I hope you don't mind, she said gently, but can I shake your hand? Maya smiled faintly. You already did when you spoke up. Emma's eyes glistened. Still, thank you. The hum of the auxiliary engines filled the silence. In the cockpit, a light blinked green. Taxi clearance. The captain's voice returned. Dr. Ellis, are we ready? Maya took a long breath, her gaze sweeping the cabin one last time. The space no longer felt small, it felt sacred. Yes, she said, let's bring this jet home. She sat back in her seat, buckled the belt herself, and let the engines rise to a deep, confident roar. Not the sound of departure, the sound of reclamation. As the jet rolled down the taxiway, the passengers stayed silent, watching the woman who had just redefined what quiet power looked like. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, Maya closed her eyes, not to rest, but to remember. When she opened them again, the storm had passed, and her world finally felt level. The jet reached the terminal gate and paused, engines sighing into silence. Outside, raindrops dotted the window like Morse code against glass. Inside, Dr. Maya Ellis unbuckled her seatbelt with a calm finality, the kind that comes after justice lands. Rachel Holt's voice came through her earpiece, crisp as always. Dr. Ellis, internal PR, has drafted a statement for media release. It's concise, factual. Maya interrupted softly. Delete it. A pause, ma'am. I speak for myself. She rose from her seat, adjusted her blazer, and walked toward the galley phone mounted on the cabin wall. The passengers followed her with their eyes, silent as witnesses waiting for history to be written. Patch me through to the PA, Maya said. Rachel's voice connected. The chime sounded overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, Maya began. Her tone steady, deliberate. What happened tonight wasn't about a seat or a ticket. It was about what happens when judgment gets mistaken for protocol. No one moved. Even the captain listened from the cockpit doorway. People often ask why moments like this matter, she continued. Because when bias goes unchallenged, it becomes policy. And when policy hides behind uniforms, it starts to look like the truth. Her words weren't loud, but they carried. Through the cabin, through the phone still recording, through the hearts of everyone who'd looked away too many times before, she took a slow breath, voice lowering. 20 years ago, I was told to leave a lounge because I didn't look like I belonged. I left that night. I didn't argue. But I promised myself I'd build something no one could push me out of again. Her eyes scanned the cabin. You're sitting in it. A few passengers blinked back tears. Mia Park covered her mouth. Ethan bowed his head slightly. I don't want revenge, Maya said. I want reflection. The kind that makes us better tomorrow than we were tonight. She paused. The rain outside grew louder, like applause from the sky itself. Then she ended the broadcast the way she always did her company meetings. Excellence has no color. Dignity has no dress code. And power, real power, doesn't shout. It simply stands. The PA clicked off. Silence fell again, but it was different now. Not heavy, not fearful. Full. Rachel came back into her ear, voice quiet, emotional. They're already quoting you online. The clip's spreading fast. Maya exhaled slowly. Good. Let them see what restraint looks like. The door opened. A soft rush of air swept through the cabin. A new flight crew waited at the threshold, 3 professionals in fresh uniforms, respectful and poised. The lead attendant stepped forward, hand over heart. Dr. Ellis, we're honored to serve under your command tonight. Okay, Bo. Maya nodded once, her expression unreadable but kind. Then let's set the standard, she said. The passengers applauded, not the way crowds do at concerts, but the way people do when they've just seen something right. A sound that begins in the chest, not the hands. As she took her seat again, Ethan leaned in quietly. You changed something tonight. Maya looked out the window where the rain softened into mist. No, she said. We all did. I just refused to look away first. Some slower, the engines began to hum again, slow and strong. Somewhere deep inside, that sound was closure, the kind that doesn't erase pain, but redeems it. The cabin lights dimmed to a soft amber glow as the jet ascended through layers of silver cloud. Outside, the rain had thinned into mist, scattering the city's glow into faint constellations below. Inside, it was calm, the kind of calm that comes only after a storm that mattered. Doctor. Maya Ellis sat by the window, her reflection floating between sky and shadow. For the first time that night, she allowed herself a breath that didn't carry weight. Justice, she thought, was heavier than revenge, but it flew farther. The captain's voice came through the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now cruising at 38,000 feet. Flight time to Los Angeles, 2 hours and 10 minutes. On behalf of Ellis Aviation, welcome aboard. No waste. No waste. He hesitated, then added quietly, "And welcome home, Dr. Ellis." The passengers smiled. Some clapped softly, a ripple of warmth replacing what had been fear. Maya didn't turn. She just nodded once, eyes on the clouds unfolding beneath her white, unjudging, free. Across the aisle, Mia Park approached, holding a folder. "Dr. Ellis," she said carefully, "ground control sent updated incident reports. They said you could review or discard them." Maya smiled faintly. "Discard them." The truth already flew. "Will you forgive them? Will you forgive them?" "Them?" Maya asked. "No, but I'll forgive myself for letting it happen so long without stopping it here." Mia nodded, clutching the folder tighter. "You make it look easy." "It isn't," Maya said. "It's just necessary." In the back, passengers began whispering again, but not in fear. One said, "I showed my daughter that video already. She texted me crying." Another replied, "She'll remember the way the CEO stayed calm." That's power. Maya caught fragments of their words, and a small, real smile touched her lips. For once, she didn't feel the need to correct, to explain, to prove. Silence had done that for her. Her phone buzzed a message from Rachel Holt. Live view count, 3.7 meters. Comments, she never raised her voice. Maya typed back, "Good. Let them learn quietly." Ethan Ward walked past slowly, now off duty but still on board, checking each row out of habit. When he reached her seat, he stopped. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I know an apology doesn't change what happened, but it won't happen on my watch again." Maya looked up at him, her expression calm, steady. "That's how change begins, Officer Ward. Not with rules, with memory." He nodded, eyes low, then moved on. Maya leaned her head back, watching the clouds break apart like folded paper. Her reflection stared back at her stronger now, not harder. The slap, the stares, the whispers, all just turbulence before clarity. She remembered her mother's words. Long ago, when they raised their hand, "Don't raise yours. Raise your standard." It had sounded poetic when she was young. Tonight, it sounded like survival. She reached for her tablet and opened a document titled Aquila Protocol Final Review. Beneath the text, a single line read, "For those who spoke up." Maya added one more, "And for those who finally listened." Outside, dawn began teasing the edge of the horizon, a pale gold streak stretching across the dark. She whispered, "Every flight has turbulence. Not every pilot has a purpose." The captain's voice returned, softer this time. "Dr. Ellis, you've got control." Maya smiled, always did. The seatbelt light flickered off. Passengers exhaled. Above the clouds, the jet carried more than people it carried, proof that dignity, once claimed, doesn't fall back to earth. The horizon had begun to blush gold, leaking into gray, dawn threading itself through the clouds. The city below still slept, unaware that justice had already taken flight above it. Inside the cabin, the glow of sunrise painted every surface in quiet redemption. Dr. Maya Ellis hadn't closed her eyes once. She wasn't restless. She was remembering. In the hum of the engines, she heard echoes of her past. Hotel lobbies that doubted her, meetings where her voice was mistaken for the assistant's, boardrooms where silence meant survival. But tonight, no. This morning, silence had meant strength. Rachel Holt's voice came softly through her earpiece. "Dr. Ellis, ground teams are preparing a press statement. CNN and Reuters both requested interviews. Do you want to comment?" Maya watched the sun emerge from behind a sheet of white. "Not yet," she said. "The story isn't about me. It's about the pattern. Let them see that." A pause, then Rachel replied, "Understood." Across the aisle, Mia Park sat upright, still in uniform, though she'd been offered rest. Her eyes followed the light as it crept up the cabin wall. "Dr. Ellis?" she asked softly. "Do you think they'll actually change?" Maya turned, the sunrise reflecting in her eyes like molten steel. "Maybe not today," she said, "but they'll never forget today." "Orators, duenidodisol," the captain's voice broke in. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be descending shortly into Los Angeles. Please fasten your seatbelts." The words carried a sense of normalcy that felt almost foreign now. Normal, as if the last 2 hours hadn't redefined what that meant. Maya buckled her belt, eyes still on the horizon. Below, the city lights began to scatter like spilled gold coins. Ethan Ward walked past once more, offering a respectful nod. "Dr. Ellis," he said, "thank you for letting me witness what right looks like." She smiled faintly. You didn't just witness it, Officer Ward. You chose it. That's rarer. He gave a small, solemn nod, then returned to his post. A soft chime signaled dissent. Maya's phone buzzed again, Rachel sending one more message. Audit complete. Crew termination processed. Employee training updated with bias code, effective immediately. Maya read it once, then closed the screen. Change had already begun, quietly, systemically. Outside, the clouds broke open. The world below came into focus. Runways, roads, morning commuters moving like clockwork. A voice from 2B whispered, "We're almost home." Maya smiled gently. Home isn't a place. It's a point you fight to reach. The landing gear unfolded beneath them with a muffled thud. The plane began its slow descent, dipping through layers of light. Every passenger looked out their window, each reflecting on what they'd witnessed. No one spoke. No one needed to. As the jet touched down, the tires kissed the runway in perfect symmetry, smooth, precise, unshaken. The moment felt symbolic. A return not just to ground, but to balance. Maya unclipped her belt. "Rachel," she said softly, "scheduled an internal briefing at headquarters. Title it Respect Protocol. Make it mandatory, top to bottom." "Already drafting it," Rachel replied. The engine slowed to a deep exhale, the kind that signals both an ending and a beginning. Passengers began clapping again, soft, grateful. One man leaned over the aisle. "Dr. Ellis, thank you for showing us what calm looks like when it refuses to bow." Maya smiled, but her reply was simple. "I didn't stay calm," she said. "I stayed true." The plane rolled to a stop. Dawn spilled fully into the cabin, bathing everything in gold. And for the first time that long night, the world looked exactly how it should. Awake? The cabin door opened with a hiss. Cool, morning air flooded in, fresh, unapologetic, the kind that wakes even the quietest guilt. Passengers rose slowly, unsure whether to applaud or stand in silence. They had landed, but none of them felt like it was just another arrival. Dr. Maya Ellis stood near the exit, blazer still neat, eyes calm. The light outside washed over her face, gold on brown, power without performance. Every camera phone turned toward her again, but not for spectacle this time. For respect, Mia Park approached with a clipboard trembling in her hands. "Dr. Ellis, the replacement crew's ready for boarding on the return flight. They nervous." Maya smiled faintly. "Good. Respect always starts with nerves. Tell them to breathe, not bow." Rachel Holt's voice came through the earpiece. "Dr. Ellis, you've got 3 press requests waiting on the tarmac, CNN, Reuters, and Jet World." Maya exhaled. Half a sigh, half a smile. "They can wait. Let the story travel without my voice first." She turned back to the passengers, each still frozen in quiet awe. One woman, clutching her handbag, finally spoke. "I've flown your airline for years. I never knew who was behind it." Maya replied softly, "You weren't supposed to. You were just supposed to feel safe." Ethan Ward appeared by the door, hat in hand, posture almost reverent. "I am," he said. "I've been security for 15 years. I thought I'd seen everything. I was wrong." "Guy certain wine?" Maya looked at him, voice low but sure. "You saw what happens when policy forgets people. Don't let it be forgotten again." He nodded. "Never." As the passengers began to file out, each offered a quiet word. "Thank you. We saw everything. You made us think." Maya didn't respond to them all. She simply listened because for once, listening felt like enough. Outside, dawn sprawled across the tarmac like a curtain lifting. The engines cooled, ticking softly, the sound of a giant exhaling. The security team that had escorted the former crew now stood at a distance, watching, heads bowed slightly. Rachel's voice returned. "Dr. Ellis, social metrics just broke a record 6 million views. Comments are flooding in." She never shouted. She just stood. Maya smiled. "Good. That's how power should sound." She stepped out of the cabin, heels striking the metal ramp with deliberate rhythm. Each step echoed like punctuation marks in a closing statement. At the base of the stairs, reporters waited behind a security line. Flashes blinked, microphones angled forward, but Maya raised her hand once, and silence spread faster than questions. "Dr. Ellis, can you comment on the incident?" one voice called. She paused, then answered simply, "What happened wasn't an incident. It was a mirror." The reporters froze, she continued. And mirrors don't lie. They just wait for you to look long enough. She walked past them, no entourage, no umbrella, just composure cutting through the noise. Behind her, the jet gleamed in the sunlight, the logo of Ellis Aviation sharp against the sky, proof that dignity, once defended, becomes its own brand. Rachel's voice returned one last time. Dr. Ellis, the board is asking if you'd like to release an internal message to staff. Maya nodded. Yes. Title it Flight 207, The Lesson at 30,000 Feet. Send it to everyone. Message content? Rachel asked. Maya smiled, just 3 words. Justice doesn't wait. As she crossed the tarmac, a light wind caught her jacket. For a fleeting moment, it looked almost like wings. Behind her, the aircraft door closed, engines ready for another flight, not just across states, but across conscience. The terminal was quiet, not the kind of quiet that follows exhaustion, but the kind that comes when the world has just witnessed something irreversible. Dr. Maya Ellis stood at the window wall overlooking runway 4. Her jet, the same one she'd been thrown out of, then reclaimed, sat gleaming beneath the morning sun, a silhouette of composure against the new day. Ground crew moved around it with newfound precision, every gesture careful, respectful. Change, she thought, often begins with posture. Rachel Holt's voice crackled softly through the line. Press still waiting? They're calling it the Flight of Justice, trending in 12 countries. Maya gave a faint, ironic smile. Justice doesn't need a hashtag, Rachel. It just needed to board on time. Rachel chuckled softly. Copy that. She ended the call and placed the phone on the glass ledge. The reflection stared back at her. Calm, steady, undefeated. For the first time in years, she didn't see a CEO. She saw a survivor who'd turned composure into a weapon. Footsteps approached. It was Mia Park, still in uniform, now holding a folded piece of paper. Dr. Ellis, she said shyly, this came from one of the passengers. They asked me to give it to you. Maya unfolded the note. In a hurried scrawl, it read, Thank you for proving silence isn't weakness. Beneath it a signature, Emma Lee. Maya read it twice, then smiled. Small, private, real. Keep that, she told Mia, handing it back. It'll remind you why truth costs what it does. Mia clutched the note to her chest, tears welling. I'll never forget tonight. Maya nodded. Then it was worth it. Outside, the replacement crew prepared for departure. Each one paused to greet her with a quiet nod before boarding. No grand gestures, just acknowledgement. Respect had replaced hierarchy. Ethan Ward approached next. Now off duty, uniform jacket folded over his arm. Dr. Ellis, he said, I've filed my full report. But I wanted to say something off the record. Maya turned toward him, curious. He continued, voice low. In my line of work, we're trained to act first, think later. You made me rethink that. Next time I see bias, I'll step in before the order comes. Maya studied him for a moment. Then maybe this flight wasn't just for me. He nodded once, then walked away, leaving a sense of quiet resolve in his wake. The intercom overhead announced boarding for other flights. Families hurried past. Businessmen scrolled through emails. The world was already moving on. But Maya knew some moments don't fade, they ripple. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Rachel. Employee portal, 10,000 signatures on equality in service pledge. Maya exhaled. 10,000, she whispered. That's how a revolution whispers through duty, not volume. She picked up her carry-on and walked toward the boarding bridge. The wind outside had shifted, carrying the warmth of sunrise. At the top of the stairs, she stopped, turned back once to look at the tarmac. There was no anger left in her. No revenge, no tremor, only balance. She spoke softly to herself, to the past, to anyone who might still be listening. They thought silence was surrender. It never was. It was a strategy. She stepped aboard. The door sealed behind her with a heavy click 1 era closing. Another beginning. The engines ignited again, low and confident, as the jet prepared for its next flight. Through the window, the city glimmered awake beneath her. Somewhere down there, another Maya was being underestimated. And maybe, after tonight, she'd know what to do next. Because stories like this don't end. They circulate at 30,000 feet, in boardrooms, in hearts,